right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time we've ever tried this. So I am going to talk about the Appassionata, I think. I think that's what we're going to do here, guys. Okay. Okay, this is actually working. So this is my app I made. And let's see. Oh, even the subtitles are working. Okay, I'm very pleased. Well, today I'm sort of practicing Appassionata. Got it right up there. One of the things about Appassionata is that my teacher always told me I should learn Waldstein. Now, I did learn Waldstein, and I got into graduate school with it, and it was pretty good. Um, and by the way, I need to practice if I'm going to do these podcasts. Just realized that. I think we all need to practice. For me, I'm very socially motivated, and living in Central Texas, there's a bit of a. I live north of Austin by about half an hour, and there's a bit of a classical music community here, but um, I live probably a good 45 minutes from it. And also, I'm just out in the country. I have 10 acres and I had a cow. That's another story. But I've got all the farm animals. I've got pigs and chickens and rabbit and, you know, cats and dogs. And what do I not have? I have some Nigerian dwarf goats. I have some sheep. So, you get the picture. And I've got a room full of pianos. This is just a few of them. So I'll introduce some of that stuff later. Anyway, I don't know what that had to do with Appassionata versus Waldstein that much, except that I'm not practicing, and it made me realize that I don't dare play this. I was actually mainly testing to see if the stream would work, and now I'm stuck on a stream. And so yeah, I just got to keep talking like a shark. I can't stop moving, and that's okay because I have ADHD. So anyway, this could get interesting eventually. Um, I'm actually on the second page of Appassionata, by the way. So if I do this again, I'll actually have a camera on the music too. Or I might just screen share it. We'll see. We'll see which looks better. Probably the screen share will. Um, but yeah, this is where I learned Waldstein. Waldstein, you can see, I went through it pretty hard and ate some paper while I was at it. Waldstein fit me very well. It's true. It was a good fit. Um, I used to be kind of rhythmically challenged, to be honest, and so it's maybe a little less rhythmically challenging, but I generally could play it pretty cleanly. Um, And yeah, I guess I was saying that I don't practice because I'm socially motivated, and that's what got me to Austin, Texas. The whole discussion there. I really want to have a goal to play for, and so that's part of this podcast. And I really want to play for you guys. I want to talk about the music. I find that the key to hacking my memory purges itself all the time, and I think this is really useful for pianists. Um, Pianists tend to be of two varieties. There's kind of the ones that are, uh, you know, they can memorize easily, but when they play, um, it's not as interesting and some would say inspired as other pianists. And then there's pianists who are kind of inspiring but could never win a competition to save their lives because they, have memory slips or they just don't practice enough. And when you get the golden mix of someone who's both inspiring and can have the discipline to practice, that's I think that's when a genius is born. I think that's when you get a Sokolov, um, Arthur Argerich, Yejo Long. I think Long Long is like that. And I know for sure that Beethoven was like that. He had kind of a drunk dad, which is a tragedy in a way. But like so much trauma, that, when we're in council culture in my generation. So everything's a trauma and you gotta discuss it and just kind of soak in it. And I always kind of wonder, does that help us at all? Because in a lot of ways, the traumas make us stronger. So Beethoven had that trauma, and I can feel in Beethoven's music. This guy's wild, and he was a great procrastinator. We know that from the Choral Fantasy. So famously, he wrote the Choral Fantasy orchestral part, um, like the day of, and the ink was still wet. Classic ADHD. We give him all the acronyms. ADD, ADHD, something like that. Spectrum. It's probably on the spectrum. All that stuff. But he had a dad who made him practice, you know? And so did Long Long. Long Long's dad famously threatened him to throw him out the window if he didn't practice. And he still maintains a relationship with his dad, and it's very classic Asian dad where, you know, they never stop criticizing. I read a thing by Jensen Huang, the founder of NVIDIA, and he was saying, you know, to this day, his dad still criticizes him. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. I try to avoid too much criticism, but I have learned that my kids grow if I'm able to build enough relationship capital where I can criticize them and it's constructive and it's to help them. My 5-year-old daughter wants to learn violin, and man, you have to criticize a lot because I mean, as soon as they pick it up, they've got the wrong bow hand. And I'm not saying I have a good bow hand because I'm mainly a pianist, but I like took violin for a few weeks before I discovered it really actually hurt my hands to play it. I know that sounds like an excuse, but it did. Trust me, it just have massive cramps, and it's also really a lot of work for if you already know how to play the piano, why would you do anything else? Anyway, I'm looking over here. I'm just trying to see if I have any viewers. This is my first time, and it's really just lovely to see my app actually out here doing its thing. So this is an app that I've made that actually um, is a video calling app that you can hold lessons with. You can have about 100 people in the session. But we recently added streaming to it, and I'm really excited to try it. This isn't even out in production yet. This is the dev version, but it will be out very soon. And so we're trying it. So I thought I should make a piano nerd podcast. And believe me, I am nerdy and I get in deep. I can tell you a lot about digital pianos. I've really gone deep into that. I have some ideas about the future of digital pianos. I also have a lot of ideas about piano technology, as in, piano technicians and how piano actions work and what pianos are good and what makes a piano good. So, hopefully we get more viewers than 0, which is what we have right now. But maybe everyone will see it afterwards and, view it. But anyway, yeah, so maybe I'll play a little Appassionata. So I got past the first page, and I actually really love the first page. I know that's like, hey, everybody loves the first page. Check this out, by the way, in our app. It actually will capture the MIDI, and this is so I have these scenes that I can set, but at any time I can pin one over the other. So, like, if you guys want to see, let me just adjust this camera a little. If you guys want to see one deal over the other, I can do that anytime. So this is kind of like a built-in camera switcher, and the advantage of that is while I teach, I can show my students things I really value. Um, Maybe I had to pull up Passionata. I think we'll just have to say that for next time when I'm actually prepared. But this is just super exciting to see this work at all. So you're getting to see. I even made it episode 0.5. This is not even episode 1. I'm still just looking for one viewer to pop up and to see if anybody enters the chat and is like, what is this? But yeah, this is the lonely world of the internet. I was hoping that one of my massive, I don't know how many subscribers I have. This is kind of my company channel, and let's see, I can see how many subscribers I have. View your channel. My channel has 193 subscribers, so yeah, it is sort of unlikely that anybody will see this, but I can always hope. So anyway, yeah, check out this app. So it's actually capturing the MIDI here. Um, I might. We're gonna do some experiments too as we get this tuned up, and people will just have to tell me what they hear. And of course, I can hear the live stream afterwards. But um, this is some pretty awesome technology. I can actually send MIDI through the stream, and then, and the reason you would send MIDI is lossless. So MIDI is actually, so here's where the nerdy stuff begins. So MIDI tells us 3 important values. Tells us when something happened. And it tells us the pitch data. So did I play a C? Okay, and that C key has a number, and then it tells you what velocity you played it with, and then the duration of that. So I guess 4 important values, but the duration is really just related to that timestamp of when it was played. So you have when it's played, and then when it was off, So you have a key down message, and you have a message that says when it was played, and the velocity with which it was played, and the velocity with which it was released, right? Now, some people say that's not enough, but it gets a lot of the data there. The advantage of this is there's no loss from the microphone, there's no compression, it gets to the other side, sounds really good. And it also can have this really cool virtual keyboard. So I'm going to use this during my podcast, and I have also, so in my app, I have these scenes built in. So this is the camera up there. I have a little side camera, and these are not crazy cameras. This is the top, the above one is a nicer camera. It's an old Sony Alpha that I got in like 2014, and then they made this cool little adapter for it. So this is something I'm gonna see if people actually like this kind of content. I can totally show you the gear I'm using. I love that. I know how hard it is as a piano teacher to make any money whatsoever, and so I want you not to have to buy the really expensive equipment. So I'll show you guys what I use. But yeah, that shows my hand. It shows, oh, I have one viewer. Yes. Okay. And I don't think that's me. I think it's actually a viewer. So anyway, because I'm connected to MIDI here, you'll hear a really clear sound, and I can still use a voice isolation mic, and that's something that's really nice. A lot of people when they're doing these kind of uh, these kind of podcasts for music, you have to have a really quiet room. Well, I'll tell you just now, I always keep my room dehumidified because I actually think it's way better than having a piano dehumidifier. So instead of getting one of those built into the piano, it's really better to have your whole room humidity controlled. I had an old technician, um, he's the kind of guy you call in to make the Steinway perfect. He worked for Steinway, he still does, I think. Tell me that. He's like, yeah, I don't get those damp systems. And I'm really sorry if you sell damp systems. I do see the value of them because then you don't have to have a dehumidifier running. But I think ultimately dehumidifiers are good. Anyway, so I have voice isolation, which would normally kill off piano sound, but it can run it while running this MIDI. So this is going to sound pretty good. Except for my playing. I should have practiced. I'm playing it kind of dreamily. I think this should be more intense, like ominous. But probably with like the soft pedal. I'm not against using Unicorda because um, our instruments are very different from what Beethoven used. And Unicorda is really about changing the tone of the piano. Yes, it goes from 3 strings to 2 strings, from 2 strings to 1 string, but it also gets you into a soft part of the hammer. One of the things, here's a piano nerd fact, Horowitz's piano. If you looked at Horowitz's piano, Vladimir Horowitz was a fantastic Russian Jewish pianist, came to America, just famous from the golden age of piano. I think he operated from around, I would say, the 1880s to the 1950s. I might be a little early with 1880. I'll get that. I'll fact check you. I don't have a producer, so nobody can look me up. We don't have young Jamie like in the you know famous podcaster who lives in Austin. Who shall remain nameless? If I could talk, I could have a podcast. Okay, so we'll use soft pedal, get tuned to that fresh felt. So Vladimir Horowitz, fantastic pianist from the golden age. You looked at his piano, he was almost always on that quarter pedal, and he kind of worn his hammer sideways because he was always just running that pedal to get different colors. So as part of what made his playing sound so interesting was he always played on the same piano, very much like Sokolov. And another thing about his piano is he had a stretch tune on it. So, the high part was just a little higher, the low part was a little lower. He did multiple things like that to make his sound distinctive. And I don't think it was just to be distinctive, it was to get more color. He loved more color. And actually, I've grown out of Steinway sounds because of that. Anyway, but I haven't practiced, so none of that matters, right? I always feel like this one, just kidding. I'm just innocent. I'm nice. And this is like the little brother's like, "No, you're not." Yes, I am. Now they're getting into a fight. You can tell I have little kids. And then I think this is when Dad comes home. This is some kind of choral. And like this guy Beethoven, he's like a Beethoven has so much character. And I think that we really miss out on those kind of personalities when society is too wealthy and there's not enough adversity. And so hear me out here. If you look at when the great characters appeared, it's when the 30 Years' War has just happened. And, you know, rolling off of so Beethoven is 1770 through 1827. I always remember Beethoven's birth because it's uh, 20 years after Bach passes away, right? Bach is 1685 through 1750. And I just feel like there's always a certain quota of geniuses, and Beethoven was one, Bach was one, and then we had Brahms. They're all B's, so that's important. Um, I don't know. I think Brahms is really underappreciated, but you know who I just love is Dvorak, Antonin Dvorak. Dude, that guy is great. Um, for symphonic stuff, and truly my heart is with symphonic stuff. That's kind of one reason I love the Appassionata. And you know what? You know what's funny about the Appassionata? I've always loved it, and maybe my brother will watch the stream, but my brother always wanted me to play it. My brothers are like 9 and 11 years older, so I'd say they're a decade older, so they were kind of like a third and yeah, like a second and third dad. I had three dads before that was cool. Anyway, uh, so Joe always wanted me to play the Appassionata, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it because you told me to, but it was actually a good idea. He was not wrong. He's not always right, but he's very certain, as people are. Anyway, so he wanted me to learn Appassionata. I never did, and now I finally am. But now he's in Africa, and I'm in Central Texas, and so I guess I'll have to play it for him remotely, or maybe I'll have to watch my podcast. Anyway, this is kind of my motivation to practice, though. I'll just say that. I think I'm going to wrap it up here because I wasn't planning on doing a podcast here. And just with a little bit of planning and topics, I could actually make this kind of interesting. But this was sort of a test to see if streaming works, and I think it's working. And so I'm very happy about that. If you see this stream, I will leave it up. It's my first time, so don't judge. Or if you do judge, just be nice about it. Okay. I'm sensitive. I'm a musician. And anyway, um, comment on what you'd like me to talk about. And I love to research things. So if you want to know something and you don't fully trust AI, because hear me out again, AI, every time I know a lot about a subject, like let's say I'm into cars too. Of course, I'm into cars, right? Um, every time I know something about a car deeply, and I ask AI, it could not be more wrong, or about a certain kind of piano, or just anything I know a lot about, and it acts so confident. And so I think there's still a value to human participation in the acquisition and processing of knowledge. And so if you still value human beings, you've come to the right place. If you still love people and music and art and creativity, come to us and watch our podcast. So the Piano Nerd podcast, I think it's going to be a thing. I think that I like my streaming platform here. Um, and if you're interested in using the app, you can always comment. I can get in touch with you. And go to our website. It's oneonpiano.com. It's kind of the same as it is in the name of my channel. So you can get in touch with me there as well. And we can dive deep into some content. If you want to know about Cristofori and how much of the piano action he really invented, we can do that. If you want to know about double escapements, we can do that. If you want to know about Robert Schumann and his weirdnesses. We can do some of that, but some of it's kind of X-rated if you know Robert Schumann, so we won't do that. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about. We have some wonderful history in classical music. I mean, think about it. So if Bach comes on the scene in 1685, and there's even predecessors and contemporaries like Buxtehude. I believe he's a little before Bach, but around the same time. And then there's Telemann running at the same time in England. And we have Handel. Um, we have that wonderful time in the 1700s. We have Mozart and the 1700s. Early 1800s, we have Chopin born. We have the end of Beethoven's life. We have, I mean, incredible composers. Mendelssohn. Um, we have all the opera composers too, which are often overlooked. And it's funny, my wife, um, super accomplished person, multiple masters, PhD, all this stuff, but was not raised in a culture where she knew anything about classical music. And the more she digs, the more she's like, wow, this is great stuff. And now she's turning into a nerd and she's like, well, what do we tell the kids about? And so I made her a list of my favorite composers and things I like about them. So it's something I can certainly go through here. And if you've lasted this long through this, I'm so thankful. Uh, and I'm actually just surprised. I'm not even really thankful. I'm just surprised. Um, in the nicest way. I bet there's like a million tips somebody could give me on how to do a podcast, right? But anyway, also, oh yeah, if you want playing tips, I'm there. I teach piano lessons weekly on this platform. That's actually how I ended up inventing the platform. As I was a grad student, and they're like, "Oh, Paul, there's this cool technology that lets you play MIDI through a live session." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And then we'd run it at the same time as Skype. Yes, it was Skype. This is 2015. It was cutting edge. And so anyway, we got involved in that, and I thought, well, there's got to be a good way to do this, that everybody can enjoy. Um, and whenever you think, oh, I can do that better, that's dangerous thought. So in 2016, I started my company. That was 10 years ago, and it's taken 10 years to get to the point where this will stream over the internet and I can use this MIDI technology, and then I can actually control other pianists with the call, so I can control up to 100 pianos at the same time. So that's another thing. If we develop a community here and you guys want to make online concerts, we can do it. Online concerts are completely possible where your piano is imitating the very key movements of mine. Now the keys won't move unless it's a player piano, but it sounds, you'll have this immersive video environment. And yeah, you'll be able to see uh, exactly what I'm doing, and I think it's gonna be really awesome. So, also, of course, this app will hold up to 100 people. So if you're interested in being interviewed, I love to do interviews. I really enjoy it. So yeah, and if we want to do performance interviews, I think that would be a treat, don't you think? So bring on, you know, we bring on Long Long. I'm sure he'll like totally have time for that, and he'll play for us. And he could give me a master class on this Beethoven sonata. But yeah, for sure, this Beethoven sonata, this Appassionata it's an argument. It's a confrontation of something. It could be more of a metaphysical level, like a conceptual confrontation, a good and evil yin and yang kind of thing, or it could just be two people talking. Who knows what was going through Beethoven's mind? But that's the great thing about music. It allows us to discuss the things that you can't discuss otherwise. You know, um, music breaks through those barriers of politics and religion and xenophobia and all those things that just keep us from having a decent discussion. um, so that's some things we can discuss in this. So thanks for joining. If you join, I see I have one viewer right now. Thank you, viewer. Oh, they left. Okay, but please, if you see this, just request what you want, and I'll get it to you. All right, I am going to stop this stream.